So hello everybody, again, I'm Mark. I was in your shoes going on 35 years ago. I got my license back in 1983. I graduated Conant in 86.
Take her phone away.
Kobe.
I went off to college, paid off my first college loans, driving 10-wheelers and 18-wheelers. When you get paid to drive, you're considered a professional driver, and people have higher expectations of you. 1989 was a big year for me. I joined my family at the funeral home. I started in law enforcement. A number of things happened that year. So, what is a police officer in regards to traffic? Anybody? Anybody?
Like the law, the stopping.
Yeah, but an observer. Okay, their primary role is observation. And again, a paid observer, and so higher expectations and like that. Whether you're on patrol, whether you're driving, the big trucks, driving around town, you get to observe a lot. And, the observations through the years have just gotten worse and worse, and that's why I come in and talk about distracted driving. So I got out of law enforcement, switched into EMS in 1997. That was about the year my daughter was born. But since 2002, I've been full-time in funeral service. And, again, locally, I own the funeral home here in town. I've served at the state level in funeral service. I've served at the national level, disaster response team, that sort of thing. I witnessed a lot of death, a lot of tragedy, a lot of things I don't want to see happen to any of you. That's why I'm here. I could be mean. I could say, just trying to get an idea of what you look like, in order to be able to put you back together for your parents if something does bad does happen to you. But I'm not here to be mean. I'm here to be very realistic. Hopefully, all good things happen to you in the future, not all bad. I have, my son and daughter. I've got nieces and a nephew. They're all your age. They're all driving or about to drive. Worried about you, I'm worried about them, just like your parents. So, I've buried way too many of my own friends my age. I've buried way too many of their children already. You do what you can, especially in these small towns, to try to prevent bad things from happening. More recently, I am helping more families that are losing people as a result of distracted driving. And that is just a culprit, I'm here to go after. Try to help you guys make better choices when you get behind the wheel, and try to get you guys, before you get your license, and have the opportunity to make a bad choice. Again, when I learned how to drive, cars were different. And yeah, I learned how to drive basically in the 70s and 80s, but I learned on a very old truck, 1947. Cars and trucks were very different back then. There was no power steering at all. No synchronized manual transmissions. They were all very difficult to shift. There were no automatic transmissions. No heaters, no defrosters, sometimes no windows or doors. They had very, very bad headlights or windshield wipers, if they work at all. No insulation around the doors. Wind would pass through very easily. You could hear the road noises. You could certainly hear the car noises. They were very loud, much louder than they are nowadays. Certainly no toys like, GPS, radios, no backup cameras, no Bluetooth, no Wi-Fi, no satellite radio, no nothing. Yeah, you were there.
What did
You
you
were one
do
with the
back
vehicle
then?
and drove. What?
What did you do back then?
We drove. We paid attention to what we did. The steering was so loose in those old vehicles. Again, no precision machining of any of the gears and the steering or anything like that. There was a lot of play. You could have, 4, 6, 8 inches of, turning a steering wheel where the wheels wouldn't turn at all. There was that much gap in all the pieces that put together all the steering. So you really had to pay attention to stay in your lane. If we tried to take our minds off what we were doing, you'd be out of the lane or off the road, one or the other. So, really had to pay attention. Nowadays, cars are too easy to drive. There is very, all precision machining and everything is so tight, so precise. You can steer with a finger. There's, the insulation keeps the sounds and keeps the wind out. It's very easy to do anything other than drive. The new cars that can park themselves. 2015, Good Morning America talked about the car that drove from California to New York City. There was an engineer in the car, but the car drove itself back in 2015. Teslas have made huge advancements in driverless driving. They've got if you can afford their car, you can get an app for your phone, and you press a button on your phone, and the car will drive up to you, so you can drive it away. It's pretty crazy. And then just the other day, they were just talking on the news about, I think it was Domino's, going to be trying to deliver pizzas with driverless cars. And you know what they're worried about?
Pizza getting there warm.
People stealing their pizzas.
Yeah, no, they're worried about people being too lazy to get off the couch to go out to the car to get the pizza. They're not worried about the driving part at all. They're pretty.
Well, now they can hire
technologically
people that
advanced.
don't have a license
Maybe, yeah. But,
and pay them less just to run up to the car, like 15-year-olds.
Even my wife's car now has, it's a Subaru. It has the eyesight technology, and it kind of keeps you in your lane. It'll beep at you if you start to wander across the white line or
That's what I
anything.
wanna get.
It's it's kind of neat, but all that technology is as distracting as anything
Yeah.
else, a phone or anything. It beeps at you, it brings up a message, and you're taking your eyes off the road, trying to figure out what the message is for the most part. I'm all for technology, but maybe not that much. Okay? Distracted driving. We just talked about all your posters, and great job on all those. But primarily, what is it? Distracted driving is a choice. You don't have to comb your hair, you don't have to talk to the person next to you, you don't have to play with the radio, you don't have to text, you don't have to talk on the phone, you don't have to have the dog in the car with you, all those are choices. You choose to do something other than drive, or you choose to drive. If you choose something, to do something else while you're driving, you also choose to be responsible for whatever happens. Like one or two of your posters had, the time it takes to read a text at 55 miles an hour. It's the length of a football field. And, if you want to think about it in another way, what is something else that takes about that long? Simply starting your car. Whether you turn the key or push the button, the same amount of time to travel that far of a distance, blind, totally oblivious of what's going on around you. That's about the same time, same attention away from the road. That's about how long it can take to kill someone or hurt someone, or yourselves. Not very long. How old are all of you?
Go ahead, around the room.
16.
16, roughly.
15,
Yeah,
17,
okay.
16.
15, 16.
16.
Okay.
16.
16.
It's this, it's this age group right here that has grown up with something electronic in your hands. Whether it's us being, not the greatest parents and trying to keep you guys happy for a few minutes while we do something else or what. You've always had, whether it's a tablet or something, equally as electronic in your hands to occupy your minds and pass the time away. That's why this age group here, up to, 30s or so, that's the focus. That's the primary group that is having so much difficulty with the distracted driving. A lot of people do it, but, this age group here is the most prone. Looking at statistics, and I've gotten most of my numbers from the National Highway Transportation Safety Agency. All your numbers that you mentioned on your posters are right on. The thing you didn't pick up on was males versus females, guys versus girls. It's actually looking like girls are more involved in the fatal crashes than boys, for whatever reason. So will there be a shift in insurance costs at some point? Maybe, maybe not. But it's, you look at the numbers, and if the numbers alone don't scare you, I'm not sure what will. Hopefully you don't become one of those numbers. Just to be able to compare something locally with some of the numbers you mentioned on your posters and some of the statistics here, how many people live here in the state of New Hampshire? Well, actually, how many people, like 1.3 million people live in the state of New Hampshire. Okay. Sorry.
I was like, I think we have to live here in order to go to.
How many people live here in Cheshire County? 76,000. Okay.
I live on the border.
How many people live here in Jaffrey?
73.
55-ish.
55?
5,500. Yeah. So when you take and look at every day, about 9 people will die, and more than 1,000 people will be hurt in a distracted driving related crash. You look at how many people are involved in any kind of collision during the year, and that's 2.5 million per year. Okay, twice as many people as live in our state are involved in a crash every year. Of those, more than half involve cell phones. 64% involve cell phones, or 1.6 million. And you're right, one of the posters said, 6 times more likely to get in an accident than someone who is legally drunk. And that's really bad when you think it's safer to drive with somebody who's drunk than who is texting.
He's not preaching to go out and drink either.
No. That was one of the best things I did when I was a police officer. There was a grant offered to the police department for a DWI patrol, and I jumped at every occasion to go out on that patrol and specifically target drunk drivers. And, that's something you don't hear so much about now anymore because the education and everything has been out there. The problem has been diminishing. So in just in 5 years, 16,500 people were killed in crashes involving texting and driving. In that same 5-year period, over 2 million people were injured. So the numbers are just mind-boggling. You look at how many texts are sent and received every day. Just in the United States, 6 billion every day. 6 billion texts are sent or received. And if you look at the world, 18.7 billion. And that's just looking at texts. That's not looking at the Snapchats, the, you know, all those other, you know, the WhatsApp, you know, the different apps that you can message through and like that. That's just only looking at texts. And at any given minute, people driving on the roads, 660,000 drivers are texting and driving. So here in New Hampshire, it is illegal to do so. However, you still see a lot of people doing it. The most recent ban went into effect July 1st, 2015. Have you talked to them all about the law and everything? You haven't? Okay.
That's your
So-
job.
I do have it right here if anybody wants to read it. But in addition to barring adult drivers from holding a cell phone and manipulating it or texting or anything like that, even talking on the phone, you can't hold it, you can't do anything, it has to be hands-free. Anybody under the age of 18 can't touch phone at all, can't touch any electronic device at all. So, the fines, and this is since the current as of January 1st, 2016, $124 for the first offense. Subsequent offense, meaning anything within 2 years of the first ticket, it goes to $310. Anytime after that, $620. So I don't know what you guys do for work while you're in school. That's a lot of money for you guys, if, you know. Plus, then you have to worry about violating the youth and you know, first operator or first original and youth operator license violations. You know, on top of that, you'll end up walking, and that's no fun. That kind of goes against why you're here. You know, driving is it's a great freedom to experience and enjoy, but you know, with all due respect to what you're doing. The law here in New Hampshire is now a primary law. So if a police officer sees you texting, no matter if you're at a stop sign or a stoplight, sees you holding the phone, they can stop you, they can cite you, no matter if you're doing something else wrong or not. That's what the difference is between a primary law. A secondary law, you'd have to be speeding or a seatbelt violation or something like that in order to be written up for the using electronic device. According to statistics, the hands-free use of phones is no safer than hands-on use of the phones. So keep that in mind. Even us parents have to keep that in mind. You know, we rely on that, but it's no safer. Your mind is still elsewhere. You know, again, it's one of those choices. You know, you're choosing to talk with somebody else while you're trying to drive. Your attention is elsewhere. It's not necessarily on what you're doing. And especially for us parents, we know that 94% of all car crashes are caused by human choice or error. Over 3,000 teens are involved in deadly vehicle crashes last year. We have to do better as parents in setting a better example for the kids. You know, they mimic what we do in many ways, and we have to be the ones that, you know, set that good example. Teen drivers today face many challenges as young drivers. It's critical for them to avoid distraction, risky behaviors, and focus on the road, especially when behind the wheel. They are the least experienced drivers on the road. Do you have to be driving or riding in a car to be killed or injured by a distracted driver?
No.
No, you don't. Yeah, I heard one of you say you don't know somebody who's been hurt or killed in a car accident. Does anybody have a story they want to share about somebody you know?
I mean, like, she was hit by someone she was on a crosswalk and then she was walking downtown and she was, like, hit by someone who was texting.
Mm-hmm.
And she was, like, had a broken pelvis, like, shattered pelvis.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
COVID just
What?
Any from all the things that you respond to? He's a junior firefighter too.
There was one not too long ago. He was coming around the corner, and he was texting driving. He didn't see the corner. Went straight off the road into a guardrail. Broke through the guardrail, hit a tree. He was fine.
Is that the call the other night?
I'll tell you about a few people that weren't fine. The most notable funerals I've had so far as a result of distracted driving. Most recent was May 15th last year up in Keene. I don't know if you guys remember that accident or not.
Where is that?
That's up on Route 9.
Is that the
By
tanker
Middle
and,
school?
is that the tanker in the car?
Yeah. The husband and wife were in Keene. They were traveling to Marlow to go see their new, their 3-month-old granddaughter. Driver of a pickup, distracted driver, crossed the yellow line, hit the tractor trailer. It damaged the steering on the driver's side. It pulled the tractor trailer across the yellow line. It went basically head on with this couple's car and went right over the car.
I remember that.
The gentleman died right then and there. The wife died just a couple days later. That was my first double funeral. It was awful. Whole generation of the family just wiped out. The kids don't get to see their grandparents or, get the Christmas gifts or anything like that we are accustomed to getting with our grandparents. All that gone just like that. A little bit before that, February 24th of last year, a good friend of mine was down in Florida. He was waiting in the cash-only line at a toll booth, and a young girl texting and driving a little over 60 miles an hour plowed into the back of his minivan. It severed his spine, and he died a couple days later. And my first was November 26, 2012. And it was a young man and his friend. He was from Jaffrey. It didn't happen in Jaffrey, but we did have the funeral. They were walking to a church supper. It was not even a quarter of a mile down the street from their apartment. They didn't bother to take the car, they just walked there. Lady took a sip of her coffee and hit both of them. Young man died. The young man is still in a wheelchair. So, doesn't necessarily have to be the phone, can be something else. All those and all the stories you always read about, they all happen in the blink of an eye, and that's why it's such a perfect title of this video here. I'll let you all see the video and then we'll just talk a little more. So.
Don't ask me, I have the kids set up for me.
Garrett. He's out. Oh, what about that?
Hey Jack, grab the Oreos and pass them around.
Do I get 2?
Don't you get 3?
I get 3?
Don't you? You do an extra one. Pretty early, so I'll just do it.
Excuse me. What is this?
Bobby.
Spotlight on your romance.
Gee, what is this?
Just make sure you have your jokes.
What is this?
The day of that
accident was just a very routine day for me.
Driving down the freeway,
No, thank you.
Dad's gonna get some.
speeding about 60 miles an hour.
Traffic was
You give another
normal
one to
flow, except when you get around where the accident was, there was construction.
And it was around rush hour, the beginning, you know, of the rush hour. And I was looking up and down as I was texting on the road.
So the traffic started slowing, and I had come to a halt at that time.
I thought I was operating the vehicle in a safe manner, you know, trying to be aware of my surroundings while I was texting.
And was just looking forward.
I didn't realize that traffic was slowing down or came to a complete stop until the final moments of, you know, prior to me colliding with the other vehicle in front of me.
Got rear-ended from behind.
Oh my god. Yeah. I feel weird.
Changed my life forever.
You look fine.
Make a left turn at the next intersection.
In the blink of an eye, an auto accident can eliminate a family member, friend, or an innocent bystander. Distracted driving is the presence of anything that can disrupt a driver from the task at hand, and not just by taking our eyes off the road. The social and economic costs of these types of crashes approach an estimated $40 billion each year. We are experiencing an explosion of driving distractions, partly because there are so many things that can divert our attention both inside and outside our vehicles. However, perhaps what's most dangerous is the widespread attitude that it's okay to perform a variety of other activities while we are driving. Most of us probably consider ourselves safe drivers. Yet when was the last time you took your eyes or your mind off the road while you were driving? It may have been while talking on a cell phone or texting. The list of visual, physical, and mental distractions is endless, yet every time we allow ourselves to be distracted, the repercussions could be life-altering.
Word is out that my video of my accident is going to be on local news. There's my face, there's my name, and there's a video of what transpired on that day. I received a small postcard in the mail saying that I have a warrant for my arrest for reckless driving. I made about 4 or 5 court appearances, and I was found guilty of reckless driving.
He had a choice, and he made the wrong choice. He did get caught, and I know he's having to suffer the consequences. But maybe this will get word out that now if you do text and drive, you will suffer repercussions from it. There will be an answer. You'll have to answer to the law now.
The AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety estimates that drivers make an average of 20 major decisions during every mile driven, and that drivers frequently have less than half a second to act to avoid a collision. Distractions can be broken down into 3 main categories: visual, physical, and mental. Visual distractions are temptations that cause us to take our eyes off the road. Physical distractions require us to take our hands off the steering wheel or prevent our feet from reaching the gas and brakes. Mental distractions keep our minds from concentrating on the task at hand. A study conducted by Virginia Tech University revealed that drivers increased their risk of crash or near-crash events by participating in distracted behaviors. Here's what the study found. Putting on, adjusting, or removing sunglasses or reading glasses, 3.6 times more likely to get in an accident. Personal grooming, 4.5 times more likely. Dialing a cell phone 5.9 times more likely. Looking at maps 7 times more likely. Taking notes 9 times more likely. Cleaning side mirror 10.1 times more likely. Digging in a bag 10.1 times more likely. Texting 23.2 times more likely to get in an accident.
And I know people are tempted when that phone rings, when you hear that little text noise that you have a text message, you're so tempted, but just wait. Wait or pull over, don't do it. You will save lives, including your own.
As drivers, we must manage distractions before they become a problem. Let's take a look at how distractions have a negative impact on driving. Reduce visual awareness. Distractions prevent us from being aware of our surroundings, limiting our ability to take evasive maneuvers when problems arise. Slow reaction times. Distractions cause us to react more slowly to traffic conditions and other events outside the vehicle, such as failure to notice brake lights. When our minds are somewhere else, we lose precious seconds before the risk of an accident registers in our mind. Create a narrow safety margin. Distractions create a decreased margin of safety because we unknowingly take risks we might not otherwise take, such as turning left in front of oncoming traffic or making overly aggressive lane changes. The simple truth is that many distractions are caused by our own actions. And the best way to prevent distractions is to make a pledge or commitment to avoid them while driving. Make driving your #1 priority when you are behind the wheel. Do not engage in any behavior that will distract you from your #1 priority. Protect others and yourself by driving safely. Always wear a seatbelt and ensure that all passengers wear seatbelts. Obey the speed limit and all other traffic laws. Before you start driving, buckle up, adjust your mirrors, preset climate controls, seat positions, and sound systems. Phones should not be used when driving. Checking messages, accessing internet information, making phone calls, and sending text messages or responding to emails should be restricted to when you are pulled over and safely parked. Our focus must be on our driving and not on our surroundings, such as billboards, construction zones, accidents, or passengers. We need to be mentally and emotionally prepared if we are to drive safely. The statistics are shocking and the risks are real. The AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety estimates that every year more than 1 million auto accidents can be directly attributed to driving while distracted. Driving accidents result in property damage, medical bills, lost productivity, temporary and permanent injuries, and even loss of life. Distracted driving accidents have dramatically affected the lives of many, including J.C. Good.
The date was May 18th of 2008. It was my college graduation day. I was so happy. I had a job lined up with Habitat for Humanity that I'd be starting in 1 month. And it was just, we had a quick drive home and I'd be home for a short while before I moved to Brooklyn to start my job with Habitat for Humanity. So I had a wonderful morning graduating with friends and pretty much my whole family. And we packed up the entire car, an apartment worth of stuff. And we only had, I think, 90 minutes drive between school and home. So we started the drive that we'd done countless times. The crash occurred as we were approaching an intersection. We were approaching a green light. And as we did so, a young man who was 19 years old was talking on his cell phone, approached a red light. And coming opposite to us was a tractor trailer. And this young man talking on his cell phone ran through the red light to make a left turn. And the tractor trailer swerved and just kind of clipped the front of him and then took on our car full force. Both my parents were dead at the scene pretty immediately, and I wasn't breathing until someone came and got me breathing.
JC hadn't responded to my phone calls or my text messages. I got a call from her cell phone and I picked up and I said, you know, hey Dave or whatever. And it just wasn't her voice on the other end. And then she said that she's a chaplain from the Reading Hospital in Reading, Pennsylvania, and that there'd been an accident. My heart stopped and I was in a stunned silence, and she had me describe what JC looked like. Luckily, I suppose, it was only 20 more minutes before I got a call again on my cell phone from JC's brother. And, you know, right off the bat, he said, JC's alive. She has a lacerated liver and a broken tibia and fibula and 2 broken feet and a shattered pelvis and a broken collarbone and a broken wrist and damage to her carotid arteries and to her lungs and some sort of brain injury, but she's in surgery. And to me, I guess, you know, JC being in surgery meant that JC was going to be fine. And so, you know, my heart started beating again and I was breathing again, and then the next thing he said was, unfortunately, neither of my parents made it out. And I was right back to feeling like there was no tomorrow.
The only way she survived that crash is the intersection where the collision happened. A paramedic lived right there, and he was out, you know, within seconds of it happening, and was able to administer care to her. So we've heard a little bit about, you know, the bus driver mentioned some of the court proceedings. The next video is a lot shorter, but it goes into that part of it just a little bit more.
Can you grab me my keys?
We are here this afternoon for a sentencing in the matter. Mr. Gilbert has previously pled guilty in this matter to 2 counts of vehicular manslaughter with gross negligence.
Distracted driving problem persists and is deadly. 3.9 million people are injured in car crashes every year. 32,999 of those people die. Drivers who text are 20 times more likely to crash. Using a cell phone while driving delays your reaction time as much as having a blood alcohol concentration at the legal limit of 0.08%. Yet the distracted driving problem persists and is costly.
There is no joy this day in this courtroom. Nothing this court does today will bring back the lives of the 2 innocent victims who died. Nothing that I do to this defendant today will change these families who have been impacted so dramatically.
A crash-related injury could jeopardize your ability to earn a living. Yet the distracted driving problem persists and is emotionally devastating. Car accidents are the leading cause of teenage death in America. Distracted driving rips children from their parents. It destroys dreams and potential. It tears families and communities apart. Yet, the distracted driving problem persists and is frightening. A crash-related conviction could cost you your freedom and future.
Mr. Gilbert, at least 14 years from now, you will be able to spend time, possibly with your family, at Christmas time. That is something that you have denied to your victims in this case. They will never be able to spend time with their families again. And that's something that I hope you think about as you spend the next 14 years in state prison. Those are the orders of the court.
Crashes caused by texting are not considered accidents. They are prosecuted as crimes. Yet, the distracted driving problem persists. What will it take to convince you to change? What is important to you? Your loved ones? Your freedom? Your future? Your financial stability? Your health? Your life? Change happens one person at a time, and only when it is important to you. Remind yourself what is important to you every time you get in the car. Please, make it home safe.
Can you give me one too?
My first cell phone was a bag phone. I'm sure some of the parents remember these.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is that?
We didn't.
What is
it's
a cell
bag
phone?
What is
No,
that?
I can't see it.
Pass that right around.
Is that a what
Phone
is
in
it?
the car?
You can look at the timeline more on the back as well.
She's like, yeah, we used to have those, right?
The bag, that's the phone, that's the antenna.
Yeah,
But they,
I had the one that had the big battery in the trunk. And it had the thing, it looked like a
Oh, it's
telephone
like a
actually.
cassette tape.
Is that like when you plug into like the lighter thing?
So the evolution of technology again has changed
Hey, guys.
things radically.
Bring it back in.
And you know, when the phone started out, we had a good conversation with a young lady in the last class.
No,
She
thank
didn't
you.
believe, you know, people our age didn't have an issue with texting and driving like there is nowadays. And so that's why I printed off these pictures and just wanted to show you, you know, the evolution of the phones that a lot of people take for granted now. So we just didn't have the option back then. It was made for a phone call and that was it. And it wasn't until really, you know, the BlackBerry and the first of the iPhones that everything changed. I mean, that was my first flip phone. It weighed about a pound, you know, and you had to carry it in a suit coat pocket. You couldn't attach it to your belt or anything. It was too big. So, I mean, but again, yeah, you could probably pass this around too. But so those were the days.
In the 70s.
He remembers it too, he's laughing.
What, you still have one? Oh, no.
We're down probably. Actually, my sister just died, she wouldn't give it up.
So I guess, you know, my biggest message tonight is you know, don't follow the pack. There's a lot of people out there that text and drive, or, you know, play with the phones and drive, and, you know, eat and drive, drink and drive, whatever. Be leaders, you know, just make a conscious decision to go out and focus while you're behind the wheel. By all means, make sure this isn't your last driving class. There are other driving classes out there that are a lot more fun, a lot more engaging. It might be specific for work, you know, if you're learning how to drive a tractor trailer, you know, for example, or a school bus. You know, you can get your commercial driver's license, you can get a motorcycle license. That was probably the best driving class I've ever taken, the basic rider class. I mean, it really helps you develop more and more ability to sense what's going to happen around you, develop a plan on how to react and what to do. I've taken pursuit driving, emergency vehicle operations, I've even raced in Loudon. There are a lot of classes out there that, you know, you can take. Make sure this isn't your last, okay?
And this class is fun.
I know.
It is?
I've heard many stories.
Oh, when I left, what'd you guys talk about?
Nothing, we're so busy watching a movie.
One of your posters mentioned that, all but 3 states outlaw the use of phones while driving. Anybody know which states allow it?
Florida. Texas?
Texas is the last one that changed.
Hawaii, Alaska.
I love Alaska.
Idaho?
North Carolina.
Idaho.
Arizona, Missouri, and Montana.
They're weird
Okay.
states anyway.
Those 3 states, if you want to go there, it's okay to text and drive, but nowhere else. Okay? And I guarantee it, those states are changing as well. If you get in a car and somebody is doing something, distracted driving, speak up. Nobody likes being snagged at doing something wrong. It's kind of embarrassing. They'll shape up. If you say something, if you're a passenger and say something, they'll stop. Or make a choice to get out of the car. Watch your own safety. This is a pledge. This is probably the best one I've ever seen. It's from a gentleman who lost his daughter to a distracted driver. And he has taken the initiative to start this whole foundation in memory of her. And he's got NDD, or NDistractedDriving.org. And he's developed the best pledge I've ever seen as far as if you want to make a pledge with your parents. And I brought enough here, you guys can all bring it home and work on it. If it's something you want to do with your parents, I highly recommend it. Makes you even more accountable for your own behavior and your own actions.
What does the pledge say?
Read it.
No. Don't let her talk to you like
So,
that.
It says,
sorry, Matt.
simple steps we can take for safer driving. It's a family safe driving agreement. Yes, I will drive without reading or sending texts. Snapchatting, using the internet, Facebook, or social media of any kind. Yes, I will call or text before I start driving to let parents, friends, and others know when I will arrive. Yes, I will wait to text or call others until they stop driving. Yes, I will pull over to a safe location to check texts, social media, listen to voicemail. Yes, I will deputize my passenger when I'm driving to text or make calls for me. Yes, I will, when alone, turn off my cell phone before I start to drive. Yes, I will stop texting or end phone conversations with others once I learn they are driving. Yes, I will pull over to a safe location or wait until I'm finished driving to eat or apply makeup. Yes, I will pull over to a safe location or wait till I'm finished driving to adjust music, scroll through iPods, iPhones, or similar devices. When being driven by a distracted driver, I will ask the driver to drive safer. And as a passenger, share the responsibility for arriving safely with my driver and offer help so my driver does not drive distracted. I, or we, will take these steps to protect myself, my friends, and family, and others from preventable crashes. So that's the most thorough pledge I've found out there to take with your family in an attempt to stay safe on the roads.
How many of you guys want to make that pledge?
My dad would tell me to go screw myself.
I already do all those things. Every time I.
So you're willing to write your name on the dotted line? Raise your hand, and he's going to come around and give you a piece of paper. If you are ready to make that pledge.
I told my mom to stop takes me driving.
My parents are so overprotective of me, they'll probably take my phone away before I go drive. Maybe.
Kobe, you should have both your hands raised way in the air, being on an ambulance and rescue, fire department.
That means mom has to.
Right.
She won't do that.
Yeah, she will.
No, she won't.
I want to see it. I'm going to rag on her. I'm going to rag on her.
I don't care.
She will. I'm gonna tell her she's setting a bad example and she doesn't wanna scrape you up
She
on the
already
ground.
knows it.
Oh, not when I talk to her, she'll be.
Ow!
Hey.
He just shot me in the face with a rubber band.
Kobe, that's Rick's daughter.
1, 2, forget about those.
I will not swear in a room full of women. Yeah, I
Calm down.
Can we cross off the things that we're going to? What? Does that count? No,
So does anybody have a cell phone with them right now?
I do. I'm gonna look at mine.
Anybody want to read their last text?
Yeah.
You don't want mine.
Mine is to Scott. It says, "Hey, what are we doing here tonight?"
I looked at that car.
Okay, guys, we're starting.
Take your pen. You just
The
read
last
one of your
received and then the
text.
last sent.
Oh, that was a swear.
Unacceptable.
That's okay, you can say it. Okay, Jack, you're gonna have to share now.
Okay. So, my last received is just one of my friends saying hey, which is like 2 minutes ago. But my last sent one was before class today. That was a text to D saying, you're late.
That's like every day. She was 30 minutes late for me.
Hey, I had to get my car fixed in between. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Okay, so this one has a swear in it, but I was talking to this person
Guys.
that we had gotten McDonald's and they don't like McDonald's. So I said, "Too McFucking bad," and they said nasty.
My last text I received was from my mom, and she said, "Are you guys driving?" And I sent, "Yes, we stopped for snacks." And that's it.
My last received one was at 3:30 from Eliza, and it says, "Hi Esther, the 20 questions for texting while driving person is due today." And then I was like, "Grr, okay, thanks."
I need them all called.
Taylor?
My last sent one was, it keeps saying it failed to send, and then my received one was, "I'm home and ready when you come."
My last one that I received was from my dad, and he said, "I'm at the 119 end," referring to the Fogg's gas station, and I said, "Okay."
My last text was her to her, and I said, and she asked me, told me that she was at Red's and they were going to Fogg's to drop off, and I said, "Okay, Dad just went to Fogg's."
My last sentence, hey. My last received was hey.
That's all it can see, that's all you can spell. And you only can read that word.
Yeah.
Scott's like, I can't tell you my last.
My last received was a streaks, and my last sent was BRB. Gotta go.
That's on Snapchat.
Same thing.
Snapchat.
What was your last text message?
He Snapchats when he texts.
Who else you texting? Your other boyfriends?
Oh, Kobe's jealous.
Alright, my last received was no, and my last sent was not too bad.
What are you talking about?
Her car has
Mike.
a hole in it. There's a plow head of some person.
Junk! Get a new one.
Family group chat.
So the last text I sent was a picture of my fortune. I got in a fortune cookie that says, "If you don't program yourself, life will program you."
Ouch.
And the last received text was from someone in this room saying STFU. I wonder who.
Yeah, I don't text people, so I'm okay.
Yes, you need your mom.
I was the first person you texted in the group chat.
You should feel alright.
You're
Really special.
Shut up, Matt.
He was my first love too.
Yes,
Shut up, Matt.
but you dumped him. Go ahead, Kevin.
Okay, so my last
Guys.
receiving was no 6 to 8, and my last sent was okay, thanks.
Wonder who that was from.
Garrett.
Wonder what that was about.
We're going to a club.
We have to remind Kevin, he forgets a lot.
My last received text was good news and a few other texts, but I just ignored them. My
Yeah, did
last
get
text
yours.
What's the good news?
was it's whatever.
It was
I
what?
don't know. I didn't text back because I don't care.
Last but not least.
I don't have my phone with me right now. It's charging.
Okay. Serious question.
Nope, no serious questions allowed.
Were any of those texts worth dying over?
No.
No.
Obviously, I didn't care what they sent me anyways.
Hey, that's pretty.
At least my conversation and the previous conversation I had.
I was risking my life with that.
Yo, my so
Another serious question.
It's,
Were any of those texts worth killing someone over?
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
My mom.
They can all wait.
Right?
Shut up.
You shouldn't tell Mark to shut up. That wasn't nice.
This to shut up.
Yeah,
This? Yeah. I was telling this to shut up. Okay.
Question.
It's fine.
Yeah, you're a bag.
Answer.
No, questions from you guys.
Oh. Go ahead, Jack, you first.
Oh.
I only wrote down a few questions.
I wrote down
Let's see.
19.
At 25.
Let me find it.
Which one is texting or calling typically worse? Like crash wise?
They're both bad, but, you know, as you saw in the video and one of the posters, you know, the texting is 23 or whatever,
Okay.
percent. 23 times, you know, more likely to
Yeah.
cause harm than so.
Do you find that accidents involving texting are worse than normal?
I would have to say yes. You know, the big thing folks are noticing is there's been no evasive maneuvers before the actual collision. If someone's distracted, you know, they don't know something is happening, so the brakes aren't applied. Nobody's tried to avoid a collision or anything. It just happens. So it's, yeah, they are worse.
Is there a time of day when texting while driving accidents are more frequent, like night versus day, or is it just bad throughout?
Not that I'm aware of. I think it's all day.
Good question.
Mm-hmm.
We should research that.
Yeah.
Does falling asleep behind the wheel count as distracted driving?
Yes. That's a, you know, physical distraction. And, you know, your attention is definitely taken away from what you're doing.
So get plenty of rest.
But that's, you know, I mean, you drive between here and Concord on 202. There are some very long stretches of straight road.
And it's boring.
And yes, and boring.
Yes.
And you see some of the worst accidents on those stretches because, you know, I mean, either people doze off or they're texting or whatever, but, you know, they hit the rumble strip and then they overreact and they yank the wheel, you know, and you see the big slides go sideways and usually broadside into somebody else's car. But that's no corners, no, you know, congested areas as far as, you know, neighborhoods or anything like that. No other influencing factors other than a wide open straight section of road that everybody thinks it's okay to do something else on or you know, again, boring road, you know, fall asleep on. Some of the worst crashes happen through there.
What age usually like does the most distracted driving?
Your age group. Yeah. You know, your age, you know, the 16 to what, 34 is by far the most affected age group with distracted driving.
Why is that?
Primarily because of the devices, but they are also, you know, engaged in a lot more activities. You know, so not limiting to phones, you know, there's you might be you know, with teammates going to a sporting event, oh, sorry. There are a lot of, you know, factors why. You know, the older folks usually settle in and, you know, they've already calmed down. There's, not that old, but I mean, you know, they're driving, they might be distracted, but, you know, it might be on conversation, it might be not. The younger folks, there's just so much going on now, more than ever before. You know, everybody is working, everybody's, you know, in sports, everybody's doing something at school or anything. Just a lot more activities now for the younger folks.
When talking about distracted driving, why does everybody stress like calling and texting and not like eating, drinking, and like changing the radio?
Because the calling and texting is the distraction that takes all three. You know, it takes your you know, visual awareness to the phone, takes your mental awareness to the phone, and takes physical, you know, touching the phone or texting and like that. Those three factors away from driving, where sometimes it's just, you know, you're listening to somebody next to you talking, or you're laughing or something. Some of your attention is still on the road. You know, I mean, small pets, I think, are more of a distraction than larger pets, from being on your lap and like that. Playing with the radio and so forth, yeah, that's about the same sort of distraction, but that's always been in the car. You know, the focus now are the newer items like the phones, GPS. You know, a lot of manufacturers have taken the lead on the GPS devices. You can't program them, you can't change any details or anything like that while the car is in motion. You have to be parked. Hasn't gotten to that point with the phones yet, so that's why the focus is there.
I said, is hands-free usage of your phone acceptable?
It's no safer than hands-on usage of the phone, but at your age, can't do it.
Can you get your license taken away from texting and driving?
Yes. Yep, I mentioned the fines earlier, and you also, you know, have the youth operator, you know, violation as well. At, you know, at the very least, you'll go to a hearing in Concord, and you're a guy, so yeah, you're gonna lose it. Girls have a half a chance of keeping the license.
I know a girl and a guy both. One was picked up his phone and it was using it as a GPS, and he got a ticket out of town.
Yep.
Out of state, and it was bounced back. He paid his fine and everything, although there won't be any problems. He came back, he found out he was driving after suspension because they suspended it, but they didn't tell him or send him a letter on it.
Not the state's
Same with the
problem.
girl, same exact thing. So,
Happens.
you wanna keep an eye on your license, check it every once in a while. Maddie? Oh, no, it's Garrett, sorry, it's Garrett.
Maddie.
Alright. So, it's the learner's permit that requires you have a licensed driver with you, correct?
Say what?
The learner's permit, is that?
Yes.
Okay. So if you have a learner's permit and the licensed passenger that you're driving with is texting and not paying attention, is that against the law?
Good question. I don't think it is, however, they should not be doing that. They should be coaching you and you know, assisting in your education, not, you know, chatting away and all that on the phone.
That's a good question, I'll find out.
I don't believe there's anything improper with that, or illegal about that. Improper, yes.
It's the most interesting question I got on here, so.
Yeah.
Good
That was a good question.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Have your car. How come like there's a select few states that aren't as hard on you about texting and driving, but the rest are?
Those states are, you know, big states with horses. I don't think that's an issue. Riding a horse and texting is probably, you know, they might not even have cell phone antennas out there. But,
Especially in like Amish country.
but no, it's eventually going to be everywhere. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if it is all 50 states by the end of this year. It's just, it's become that widespread of a problem. Every state is stepping up to bat and trying to combat it somehow.
How many people are involved in an accident that is related to texting and driving each year?
How many people are involved
in an accident related to texting and driving each year?
What was that? 1.6 million.
Look at sick, he can't hear one.
What?
Okay, 2.5 million people in the United States are involved in some sort of collision each year. 1.6 million have a cell phone somehow involved.
Okay.
64%.
It's my turn.
Yes.
Shut up. I said, my question was like, how is talking on the cell phone like how is talking on the phone like more dangerous than it would be if you were like talking to someone in the car? Because like you normally look at someone when you're like talking to them and stuff. Or like paying attention to someone when they're speaking and stuff.
It's probably very comparable. If somebody is sitting next to you, you have a choice whether you look at them or look at the road. Hopefully you choose to look at the road. What happens in a conversation is, your mind is wandering towards the topic of what you're talking about, not at the task at hand, whether it's, driving or what have you. It's long been studied and proven that we are not able to multitask at all, but we try our best to. And it's very evident that we always fail, so sooner or later. But I mean, it's as far as talking to somebody next to you and talking on the phone, I don't know necessarily if there is a one that's better than another. Yes.
Can I share a little story that happened today?
Of course.
Where were we? We were going like to the mall. Stop. I hear you. And where were we? We were like in Bedford, right? Going around that curve, and I know that there's a light there, so like I was like slowing down or whatever. And I saw like the guy in front of me, he had his tail lights on, so I knew he was braking, so I was braking fast enough. And all of a sudden the light turned red right when I was coming up and I was gonna try to beat the light. And I didn't brake fast enough, and I almost went into the back of his bed of his truck with our low-riding Chrysler.
Wow. Yeah. Driver.
And that, that could be because, you're so early in driving, you're making these choices, perhaps not as quickly as an experienced driver would, and, thinking before you act more than thinking and acting at the same time. Anything can happen.
But I had country music like blasting, and she was like talking. So I was like, well, she was like talking, but she was like, just give me like, oh, you need to slow down. And I was like, yeah,
I don't
down.
let them
And
have
then
the
she,
radio.
you know what she does? I'll see her in the corner like getting scared. She's like, go like this, stop. I'm like, what are you doing? You're not stopping
Natural reaction, exactly.
So I'm like, are you scared? She's like, no, my arthritis is acting up. I'm like, stop. Just tell me you're scared and I'll slow down. Like, just tell me what you want me to do and I'll do it. Stop. Anyway, it's my question. And
folks,
my question is, why are rumble strips used if you get such a bad reaction as you said? And then sometimes even worse in texting and driving.
They are meant to bring your attention back to the fact that you're leaving your lane.
Yeah, but you said that.
And
You're going off the road either way.
well, that's, a sure sign of someone who was daydreaming or texting or talking or doing something else. You feel through the wheel, you can kind of sense, as long as you've been driving for a little bit, you can sense which tire is rumbling versus the other one, and you react to, try to be an appropriate reaction, but you overreact. But that's the whole reason they are being put into all these roadways, is to bring your attention to the fact that you're leaving your lane. And, that's an attempt to do something good. It's the drivers that are reacting inappropriately or overreacting.
Jeff, you're up.
Around again.
I can, if parents have questions too, by all means, yes.
What is the best thing for them to do when they get in the car with their phone? Shut it off and, like I put
I
my.
already have a do not disturb thing on.
Calm down, calm down.
I mean, like I put my purse in the back seat.
That's the best thing, you know, put the phone out of reach.
Right, so it's out of
And
reach.
whether it's back seat or, you know, far enough on the floor beside you, you're not gonna bail into the passenger seat to get it.
Right.
The best thing is to just, you know, out of sight, out of reach, out of mind.
Are there apps that they can, like a parent can shut off their phone for a certain period
I'm
of time?
sure there's
I mean, there
different,
would be. I mean, it would be a good
different
idea.
apps out there. I'm still waiting for the manufacturers to do something. All these phones are GPS enabled. They've, you know, done comparisons where they've taken the SIM card out of the phone altogether, so there's no communication, there's no Wi-Fi, there's no nothing. That phone still can tell you where it's been, you know, through the course of a day. They have all that technology in place. They should be able to sense if it's going faster than, you know, 5 or 8 miles an hour to shut everything down.
AT&T has an app that you can use.
It's an app.
My mom has an app
That's
on my
not
That
a
you put on your
manufacturer
phone.
level.
No, but I'm just saying, they do have an app you can download.
There are different ones that are having, you know, there's a number, you know, of apps that, you know, come to mind, but they all have something to do with, you know, you are the one that chooses to turn the app on or not when you get in the car.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting for something to be more automatic and safer.
Apple's now done that in their latest iOS. There's a do not disturb setting that you can activate when you're driving, that
That
it'll
you
automatically
can
go
activate.
into it when
Yeah,
you're,
yeah.
so it'll automatically know when you're moving,
Mhm.
and it will put you in the do not disturb mode. when you do
My
that.
phone automatically does that.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
that, but I turn off like I'm not driving, but I could be driving. But I'm not driving. So I'm like, I'm a passenger and I do that.
Well, it is the challenge because you're right. If it does, I've been riding with
Gives you the
somebody.
easy out and-
Well, but I had it set to automatically go,
Yeah.
but then the challenge was when I was a passenger, guy with somebody else driving, and I was actually waiting for messages from somebody. They weren't coming because I was in do not disturb mode. I hadn't realized, but we were in motion. So the automatic thing said, well, you're in motion, you must be moving, so.
So that's getting there.
Yeah.
That's but you're always going to have these commuters that are on, you know, trains or on buses and all that. That, you know, everything is a factor. So,
Do crashes more often happen in towns or out on like back roads?
Everywhere.
Just everywhere.
Everywhere. Yep.
Is there, wait, where'd it go?
I have a question. Commercial drivers or regular drivers getting more texting problems and?
I don't know if there's specific stats on that. I would, again, tend to assume it's more the passenger car operators that are more prone to be distracted. You know, you've got the drivers of the trucks that are professional drivers. You have a higher expectation. They might be talking on the CB, they might be, you know, doing that sort of thing, but I don't think you'll find any of them texting and whatnot driving, because they are a lot bigger vehicle, a lot heavier vehicle. You need more room, you know, for any kind of a reaction to anything that happens on the road. So hopefully they're.
I know they passed a law that CDL, if you have CDL and you're driving like a truck or a bus or anything like that, that you'll lose your license automatically. There's a big fine.
And, you know,
For a truck.
for, you know, the intoxicated driving, it's half the limit of somebody in
Right,
a
it's four,
passenger car.
yeah, it's .04, but
0.04, yeah, there's a
texting and
lot of
driving,
things.
it's automatic, you lose your endorsements.
Mhm.
So, I know that, I didn't know if there was Are they following up through that?
If there are statistics, they're not readily available on the, NHTSA site, and it's not, you just see, blank statistics. It's not specified if it's motorcyclists or commercial or.
Yeah, it wouldn't be that long for them to pull that up though.
Probably not.
I gotta ask the one that does all those statistics to find out what that is. I wonder how many actually lost their license. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
I just,
Oh,
I see bus drivers always like.
better be.
Our bus driver checks her phone while she's driving.
Yeah, not supposed to.
I swear my bus driver falls asleep in the morning while he's driving. Like he shuts his eyes and then he opens
We
them.
can close our eyes.
Then he shuts them for a while.
No.
I get scared for my life.
Dude, I
I'm
was
sorry.
driving
Well, let
the
me tell you, a
other
lot of the bus drivers have to have it over here in the little cup holder when their clock isn't working properly. So, and they're going like this constantly, looking over here, see if they're on time, which is a pain in the.
But I also think too, it depends on the company too.
Yeah, well, sometimes it takes
If we
time for
even
the parts to
touch
get
our
in.
phone, we're
Yeah, that's how
going.
Jane is too, and she's got a video on us all
Yeah.
too, so. But we have to stop, when we stop, then we can check our phone to see what time it is. Make sure we're running on time, but if we're 1 minute late.
No questions about
The
work.
coach is getting mad. What's that?
No questions about work or anything. No.
I know, okay, you guys wanna ask about work now, go ahead.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, can I ask you about your job?
Yeah, I just was running back.
They couldn't wait, dude.
How many funerals do you think you've had? How many funerals do you think you've had, like, since you started?
Since my funeral home started, just in a very small town, about the same number as the population of Jaffrey.
Wow.
About 5,500. Not this year, no.
How many
That's since we
natural-
started.
How long has
We
your
are
funeral home been
103
open?
years old. Jaffrey's not a big town. We do help families in other towns and like that, but I mean.
Hiccup me.
Okay, go ahead.
I go off.
Who wants to hit up?
Oh,
Wants to get up?
did you, shut up, man. Did you, because you said national, like, disasters, did you do Hurricane Katrina or
I
like?
did,
But I'm not done yet.
Okay.
Or. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean it to be rude, but I was, oh my god, stop. I just ate. Yeah, but, sorry about that.
You're cute, go ahead.
Did you do like Hurricane Katrina or like Sandy or like 9/11 or Boston bombing, school shootings?
Like big events.
I was directly involved in Hurricane Katrina, the Rhode Island nightclub fire. 9/11, I was on a tertiary team before the city of New York took over complete operations there. What it is, I was a member of DMORT, Disaster Mortuary Operations, Operational Response Team, in that we would be tasked with any big, mass fatality event, re-identifying folks that had been claimed in the event and reuniting them with their families. And Hurricane Katrina was the first event I was on the first team in. We were there 2 days after the hurricane hit. We went in right on the heels of the National Guard. They actually had their tanks and bulldozers and like that clearing the road so we could get there. It was that bad of a hurricane. If you picture, Interstate 89, it's a divided highway and a median in the middle. All the trees and everything were laid down across both sides of the highway. There were occasions where we were in the opposite, lane trying to get, further south, trying to get to, I was deployed to Mississippi. I was not deployed to Louisiana. Mississippi had 178 storm-related deaths. I was involved in all 178 deaths as far as, working with either the families in the Family Assistance Center that were giving us the information to try to identify their family members with. I didn't go out into the field for recovery. I did work in the morgue, from anything from, you know, escorting bodies through the morgue to working DNA, fingerprint with the FBI team that was with us. I ended up running the X-ray division, and you know, it's a long story how I ended up there, but you know, it's a team effort on all of those. I was on a secondary team for the Rhode Island nightclub fire, Egypt Air that crashed down off the coast. Some big events. I've fortunately been able to take some of that training and bring it here. And you know, not every small town funeral director has that kind of training or experience. So God forbid if there is something that happens at the school, like you mentioned Sandy Hook and like that, at least I feel I'm a little more prepared for that scale of an event here in town or any of the neighboring towns, to be prepared. And hopefully I never have to put that kind of experience to use here in town. So, but yes, that's my experience on that level.
Jackson, a dead stare thinking about that.
What, sorry?
This is kind of a weird question, but are you still kind of like disturbed by what you see, or have you like acclimated, like, oh yeah, dead body?
There's no getting used to it, you know, especially now that I've had children. Any person that's young, you know, the drug deaths, the accidents, all that, it bothers me. And you know, you feel everything you do to the individual, whether you're moving someone or you know anything at all. You know, you grieve with the family as you are helping them through this whole process. You know, some of the times I know the person very well, because we're in a small town. So yeah, you know, it hurts us as well. But we do have to, you know, stand up straight still and try to carry these families through each event. Yes, sometimes they're easier if we don't know the family that well, and sometimes it's not very easy at all. But yeah, there's not really any getting used to what we do. Yes.
What kind of education did you need for this? Like, did you major in anything, or did you just learn from like family tree?
My first round of college was for business. I probably should have taken that a little stronger than I did, but there is a very focused funeral service degree. You know, the state of New Hampshire says you need an associate's degree. I got an associate's degree plus, you know, my first year of college, and then once you get licensed, there's you know, so you have 2 years of college, 2 years apprenticeship at a minimum here in New Hampshire. Sometimes, like the apprentice I have now, he's on his 4th year because, you know, the things we have to do during the apprenticeship. Once you get licensed, to get licensed, there's a national exam on all the items. You know, there's science like microbiology, anatomy and physiology, pathology, embalming, chemistry, all that stuff. There's non-science as well. There are computer classes because everything is computer oriented now. There's merchandising, there's public speaking, there's, you know, all these weird little classes too that are all compose what we do. You know, you have to take a national exam for that, and then there's a state exam on all the state laws that you plan to provide, you know, be a provider in. And then every year after you get licensed, you have to have either 7 or 14 hours of continuing education. So you're constantly going to school through your entire career. Yes?
Did you like get out of high school and be like, yeah, I want to direct a funeral home, or did you like do something else?
My first, well, if you look at my 8th grade graduation, my 8th grade yearbook, I said I wanted to be a funeral director then. And then you look at my high school yearbook and I said I want to be a cop. So I did, try law enforcement, fortunately.
Didn't work out.
And, what? It's frustrating. It was frustrating, 30 years ago, and it's frustrating now, even more. But I tried it, and you know what? I can say I tried what I wanted to do and just didn't like it. And at the same time, I got into law enforcement at the same time I started going to school for funeral service. And so I did, I had the best of both worlds for a while. And then, we had Alicia, and that was about the same time I was starting to get a little frustrated. And then I realized, I'm out working, I was getting to these, the ambulance calls about the same time, or before the ambulance got there. So I've had anatomy and physiology, I've had this, I've had that, I could do that. And, so that was my switch to the ambulance from law enforcement, and that was never a consideration. I just did it and had a lot of fun. You're in a small town, you wear a lot of hats, you help out in any way you possibly can. So that wasn't in my plan at all. But, funeral service way back, all of a sudden became my primary focus later on. And yeah, I tried a little bit else, in the middle, so, yeah.
Okay, who's the ones that had the gory ones?
I went.
Huh?
So I went.
Gory.
No, gory.
Gory questions. What's the worst accident you've seen?
All of them?
A lot to choose from on there.
That's
They're all, they all have that element of, oh my God, that had to it. But I've seen, some of the worst injuries, believe it or not, are from seatbelts. But, that combined with the fact that the degree of impact was so great, that caused that much injury from a seatbelt going across the middle of you, it kind of balances each other out. The seatbelt injury was bad, but it would have been a lot worse if they weren't wearing the seatbelt. But you see broken bones, through the skin. You see lacerations. You see, there's a point when there's a cut, and then there's an avulsion. There's a flap of skin, going off. I mean, I can run a whole gamut of degree of injuries that I've seen, and none of them are comforting, and none of them are, nothing is good. That's, another reason why I'm here trying to convince you guys to, make good choices and don't be something I see later on. That's because it is so extensive. I don't know if that answers that question at all.
Natural death?
No,
Natural
I'm
causes.
never gonna die.
Weapon dying.
I can tell you what I saw when I was in driver's ed, or it was right after I got out of driver's ed. I think it was probably one of the first few nights I was driving. My dad had responded to a car accident here in town where a convertible flipped over. And, the head was gone down to the lower jaw.
What, just
Oh,
from
so like the
From
head
like gliding
skidded
across
off?
the ground?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's gone
And
now.
all Dad had to say was, this can happen to you. Be careful.
That's what your
And
dad said to you?
that was very poignant, and that message set, very deep inside of me, and so far I haven't done it, so.
I'm glad to know that.
Yes.
Do you think you would ever be like a funeral director in like a big city, like I don't know, Houston? Because like whenever I watch First 48, you see a lot of like gruesome deaths down there. Because like
I see those here too, though. So
I know, but like, are people being tortured here? Hopefully not, but.
The only benefit of working in a big city is you don't know who you're helping. So they're not someone that you've grown up with. They haven't been your teacher through the years. They haven't, I had that when I served my apprenticeship. I didn't serve my apprenticeship with my dad and my grandfather. I served my apprenticeship just in Keene. But, Keene has, 500 funerals a year versus Jaffrey had, 50 at the time. So, yeah, I had that to a certain extent. I was just in Houston last year at this time. Houston's huge, and that's why they have so many funeral homes. There's a funeral home almost every other block down there because they're helping a lot of families. And yeah, the shows always portray the worst of the worst. But, would I work there? If I had to. I like the small town part better.
Yeah, but you might run into your friend, like your kid's friend, like.
He has.
I do.
That's sad.
Yeah.
That's when the hugs help a little more. Yes.
Have you ever had to have like one of your own family members or something? Yeah.
It's Kobe.
What?
Question.
I'm gonna ask you a question.
Since you've been talking so much over there in the corner,
I don't think he has the answers to stuff I've been talking
so you should be talking about texting.
about. Got any firefighting experience?
Yes.
Okay.
What kind?
What kind? Firefighter 1, 2?
No. I was on the police department, and we had 2 back-to-back structure fires in Fitzwilliam when I was there. And everybody was tied up at the first kitchen fire, and there was a trailer fire down Route 12 a little bit further south of the center of town. So, yeah, I'll go down and check it out. Yep. And everybody was screaming that the propane tank was just filled that day and it was going to blow up and all like that. And I didn't know any better, so I ran up and shut the tank off and turned around to leave, and the back window of the trailer blew out, and I had nice hot glass in between, all over me. There were burn holes in uniform. There was glass, down, my neck. There was, so that's when I figured, yeah, I'm not going to the burn building. So.
You just didn't have the race stuff on.
Yeah.
That's why you became a firefighter, not a cop.
It was exciting though, but other than that, I'm good.
I'm gonna give so much back when I'm going home.
Were you present for like
Shut up.
Were you present for, I don't know if you know this, but remember when there was like a firefighter in Marlow that would set like fires just so he could set it out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it Marlowe?
It was Akron, Elstead.
Okay.
It was Elstead, it was Kobe's
I
friend.
remember the story.
You said it was my friend.
I remember the story.
Yeah.
Never has anything. He just said something.
Did you have to, I don't know,
I didn't
bury any people, animals from that fire? Animals matter too.
Have you ever had
You
anybody?
bury
I
animals?
buried them.
They bury humans.
Pretty badly buried.
Yep.
What?
A number of times.
You know the bodies that are like sitting dead for like
And I don't mean cremated.
without knowing.
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Do you find that people, like, in now times prefer cremation over a...
They do. It's because of the flexibility with cremation, and sometimes it's because of the costs, and folks not being able to afford a big traditional type of funeral. But more so, families are so spread out now. You get family in Florida and California and all like that. To make somebody travel in 2 days for coming up to the Northeast for a funeral, I was trying to get to Charlotte a couple weeks back. It was going to be $700 to fly the next day. To go out a couple weeks, it's down to $200. So there's expenses all the way across a funeral that yeah, if you're trying to rush anything, it costs a lot. And so families aren't able to bear that, and families are using their heads and making, better decisions on what they do for the whole picture, especially now. Yeah, cremation is almost, 74% of the funerals we have result in cremation, whether you're calling hours first or cremation first. Yep.
I was gonna ask me a question.
Matt, why don't you ask it? He's not asking.
I don't know if
It's
you
his
can ask me.
question.
It wasn't my question.
I mean, you're so cool. Okay, so we wanted to know, when bodies are found, after a long time, what is it like?
I already know what it's
I knew it came.
How long? I can give you many
Like
examples.
a week.
Oh, only a week? That's not bad.
Oh no, we're talking 3 weeks when they've been in the house for that long, and then
Okay,
the
3
neighbor
weeks.
says, "Damn, the house has been a little stinky lately," so they have someone going in to investigate, and they're are in the recliner. Eyeballs sunk into the back of their head. You can count every bone in the body.
We have to. We don't have a choice in handling the body, for one. We have to. So the best example I have of that was the day before I went to Keene to serve my apprenticeship. It was here in Ridge. It was a summer camp, I won't tell you exactly where. Never mind.
Is that one in Dublin?
Hmm?
You guys, did you take the homeless man out of Dublin?
No.
Okay.
This gentleman, he would go down once a week and get his mail from the post office. He didn't have a mailbox. And the postmaster was the one that kind of realized after several weeks that he hadn't seen this gentleman. And so, sent somebody to check. And you got to the top of the driveway and you could smell, decomposition has a very noticeable smell. If you drive by an animal that's been on the side of the road for a couple days in the summer, you know what it smells like. So you got to the top of the driveway and you could smell that. And so it was evident that he had died in the house. We went into the house, and you have to remember that the human body is mainly made up of water. And that's what we return to eventually is more of a liquid state than a solid state. And this gentleman was well underway of getting back there, and it was quite messy. And we have all the gear that you see on TV as far as the big, marshmallow suits that you put on, and the booties and all that to be able to handle everything like that safely and still come out healthy afterwards. But when you reach that liquid state, you go through floors. And this gentleman died upstairs, and a lot of them was downstairs. It was so.
How do you bury?
What do you mean? He's not
Bury? How do you bury him?
The cremation took place, and that was.
Wait, he was found upstairs, but his body was downstairs?
No, the liquid from the
Liquid
So he was there for like a month.
The cat was going.
If a mouse dies,
The longest I've ever
upstairs,
seen,
it will melt through the
the
floor.
longest I've ever seen of a guy, a person being dead was a week, and he was found out in the middle of the woods.
Oh, we
He
got
had gone out in the woods and killed himself, and he was just frozen there, because it was still cold enough where he wasn't
So he didn't decompose it?
no, he wasn't decomposing it, but he was frozen and everything. It took the fish and game and the I don't know what you guys would call yourself.
Funeral director.
Yeah.
That was
It took them
mortician.
4 or 5 hours just to try to get this guy out because he was 10 feet down and a bunch of rocks.
Sometimes,
And he was
explications
he was
from
2.5
where people
miles
die,
from the
that's
nearest
an issue.
road. It was
Why were you out there?
because
2.5 miles
my
from the nearest
friend
road?
is on the Keene Fire Department and they needed more people to go out and look for the guy.
I've been to the top of Mount Monadnock. A gentleman went to the geological survey marker, at the very tippity top of the mountain, and shot himself.
Oh, that's going the extra mile for no one to find you.
Well, no, it's unfortunate, a bunch of, third
Yeah,
and
this
fourth
guy was
graders
out on the
found
side of Pitcher Mountain and he only knew of where this was because he logged it on.
But, we had to work a fishing game, state police, carry the gentleman down.
Dude, he was 11 miles from his house.
Is it true that like after 4 days the body like swells because of the gases in the body? Like after someone dies?
I've never been there to watch, per se, but.
Never mind.
Anything can happen, and timing can be different. Decomposition happens at different rates for people, if they're skinny, if they're fat, there's all sorts of factors within us that change the rate that Mother Nature acts. Also the room, the room, the heat kicked on here, now it's nice and toasty, decomposition would happen faster. Someplace cold, outside, or even somebody's poorly, heated house, if the wood stove goes out, in the winter, decomposition is going to happen a lot slower. So, there's a lot of, you can't say after 4 days, or after 10 days, or after, after an hour. You can't say anything like that. There's so many factors.
Do you put?
Okay, go ahead.
Do you put your faces of your children on every young person that you see? Like, I don't know, if someone in this room, you would be like, oh, that could have been my daughter, that could have been my son.
That happens. The worst time I had with that was a 2-year-old that hung herself in a Venetian cord.
What?
The Venetian blind on the cord. Years ago, they weren't cut at
They weren't separated.
They weren't separated at the bottom. Yeah, they were a loop. And
The Venetian blind, the blinds there. It used to come down and it was all one piece.
Like the ones at school, like the metal ones?
So that right there, that was a loop, and
I know the loop.
the 2-year-old hung herself in that cord, and
That's why they separated them.
that's why they did, because a lot, happened to a lot of people. And she was the same age as Alicia. She had the same hair color. They brought in practically the same outfit Alicia had, and it was very, very difficult for me not to picture Alicia there. And then to boot, she was a twin. And so, come time for the funeral, there was one little girl in the casket and there was the same little girl here alive. So that was freaky.
Did you do the boy's funeral that shot himself? He's from Manila.
Saw himself up.
He's from Manila.
He's from, I can't
Manana.
remember. Oh, Manana?
Yeah.
I don't know, which
When?
one?
John Merrill.
Did he live in Fitzwilliam? He did, okay, I helped at the house. I didn't help with the funeral. The funeral was up in Keene.
How about Chief Costa?
Who's Keene?
The chief, I didn't, I went to the funeral only because he was a friend. And,
I didn't go.
Any other
poor
questions?
Jillian and Mom are wondering, wow, what did I miss before this?
You missed all the good stuff.
All the normal stuff, you missed. All this stuff, you
We have it on video, so.
Or
Close
we can
ads
get
did it
together
for
and
us.
I can tell you everything too, so that's it.
Any other questions, guys, for Mark?
Thank you for coming.
Thank you all.
Who said that?
It's,
Thank you.
weekend evening.